Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey. Joining me as ever, the pinnacle of perversion. You're going to like the way he looks. Aaron Piet, Aaron Joseph Pita.
Station to you, my friend, and a station to you.
Oh, handsome Matt Brousseau.
That's right.
Hi, thank you.
How
Thank
are you, Matt?
I'm good.
Boys, we have a departure episode today. We're not talking about a weirdo. We're just having an interview with writer Chris Matheson, creator of Bill and Ted. Upcoming Face the Music movie. Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I'm sorry. Hi.
Coming out in August, COVID allowing. I don't know if it's going to be digital. Who's to say?
Who's to say? But it will be a time.
Yes, we're going to dive into this interview. If you don't listen to the show and this is the first time for you, we usually do biographies of strange people from the past and the present. And if you want to check this out, it's the best show you can ever listen to.
That's right.
In your wildest dreams, forever.
What dreams may come. And,
in the future, past.
That's right. The best there ever was, the best there ever will be.
Yeah. So we are going to get into the interview with Chris Matheson right now, and join us afterward, and we're going to have a little discussion about how it went. Chris Matheson, you have The Buddha Story coming out in August, as well as Bill and Ted Face the Music coming out in August as well. Welcome to the program.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
You are joined by me. We've talked on the phone. John Fahey. Over there is Aaron Pita.
That's me.
I actually contacted you because it was Aaron's birthday.
Yep.
And Aaron has multiple times in front of me recited the entire movie of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Off from memory, scene by scene.
And
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, I can't. Thank you so much. Wow, that just hit me right in the face. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, John. And thank you, Matt.
Yeah, and Matt Brousseau is here as well. So I wanted to go through a few things with you, starting with, you have, all these books published and all these movies made. And you grew up in a writing family. What was that like? I mean, were you just always doing this all your life?
No, not really. I think I was probably inclined towards wanting to do creative work, but when I was in high school and early college, I wanted to act. So I did that. I acted in plays for a few years, and then I wanted to direct plays after that. So I did that for a few years, and I went to, graduate school in theater directing. And then I was about halfway through that, and I realized that I had a very strong interest in comedy. Mm-hmm. And Ed Solomon and I, who, we wrote Bill and Ted together, we'd gotten to be friends by then. And I wanted to do comedy, and I thought that film was a better medium for making comedy than theater. And I think it is a better medium for making comedy than theater, because in theater you kind of have to do it night after night after night after night, right? That's the deal. Whereas in film, you just get it once, you get it right, you get it one time right, and you've got it. And so I found more things funny on film, so I decided to take a shot at that. And I'd maybe avoided it, actually, because my dad was a pretty well-known writer, and, I didn't really want to go right up against that.
Yeah.
But I did, and it did come it came pretty naturally, I guess, because I had grown up around it.
Yeah.
And
your brother was already writing then, too, right?
My brother? Yeah. My brother is has been a writer for a long time, and my sister wrote for Rugrats for a number of years, so she was a writer too.
That's wild. I mean, that's just
you guys are all over our childhood and adolescence. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all over pop culture. Yeah.
So we talked about this, we touched on it a little bit, but what is it like? I mean, having a movie, a long anticipated movie, coming out in the middle of all of this COVID craziness.
Well, the hope is, it's strange. I mean, obviously, it's a strange moment for everybody, right? I mean, it's just strange. The world looks different. The hope for Bill and Ted is that it's a good fit for the moment, that if we can get it out in the next month or two. There's a lot of bad things that have happened over the last 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of stressful things.
Right.
And hopefully Bill and Ted Face the Music is, as one of the producers of the movie said, it's intended to be a feel-good movie at a feel-bad time.
Yeah.
And, I hope that's what happens. I hope we get it out, the right way in the next month or so, and I hope that's how it lands with people.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's the song that changes the world.
Yeah, we've waited. It's what, damn near 30 years already, 28 years.
Yeah, and
we'll
I mean, I want to return to Bill and Ted a little bit later too, but real quick before I move on to the Buddha story. Why? I think there's something special about Bill and Ted that makes them endure. And I think it's just this unlimited positivity of the characters, that I think everybody is just so happy to see them come back. Do you think that's accurate?
They are very positive. Yeah. Yeah, they are. They have a very, they're not completely sunny. They definitely have dark. There is a dark side,
right,
to Bill and Ted for sure, but they have a positive kind of spirit to them, and that made them from the very beginning for Ed and me really fun to write, fun to kind of be, because that's how we wrote it. We would just go back and forth as Bill and Ted, basically, and they were really fun. They were really fun to play, and I think that Alex and Keanu have enjoyed playing with them for the same reason. It's a really positive headspace to be in a way, and I think people have responded to that.
My friend Richard Park saw Excellent Adventure for the first time like 2 months ago, and he loved it. He just loved it, and he hates everything. And I remember it coming out. I remember going to the video store as a kid, and I think I'm 6 when I'm in the video store looking at the posters for it, and it was just like, this is, it's not out, I haven't seen it yet, but this movie's cool. Right. It was just like one of those things where you knew it was going to be, and then they have remained, from my childhood on, as just like these incredibly iconic characters. How did you and Ed meet? Was that through like acting, comedy stuff?
How did Ed and I meet?
Yeah.
We actually both took our first playwriting class together at UCLA, and there was probably 10 or 12 people in the class, and one of the other students was actually Shane Black, who wrote, Lethal Weapon and Last Boy Scout and a bunch of other stuff. And so we kind of got to know each other a little bit through that. And then because I was interested in directing plays, then I directed a play that he'd written. And we spent a lot of time together at that point because we were working on this play. And we just started laughing together. We thought a lot of the same things were funny. And we made each other laugh, right? and we hung out a lot for a few years there, especially right before we wrote Bill and Ted.
Yeah. And so you're about 29 when the movie comes out? When the first movie comes out?
When the first movie came out in 1989, I had just turned 30.
Okay. And how How long before then were you writing it?
Well, we wrote it. We came up with the characters in 1983. We kind of did a little improv group together, not for an audience, just for fun. We'd just get together to kind of play with funny ideas and funny characters. And Bill and Ted came out of that, and we just liked them, and we just started goofing around with them, and we would just play Bill and Ted for fun, and just have phone conversations as Bill and Ted for fun. And then in 1984, we decided we wanted to get into the movies if possible, so we wrote the script in '84, and it got filmed, I think, in '87. Yeah, 87. And then it came out in 89.
Yeah.
So you wrote Bill and Ted before Back to the Future.
So, I'm sorry, what?
So you wrote this incredible time travel movie before it kind of had entered the mainstream, in the 80s with Back to the Future.
I don't know. What year did Back to the Future come out?
85.
85.
Yeah, we were not right. So that's right. Back to the Future, we did have to change something in Bill and Ted, because the original time travel device was a van. It was a 1969 Chevy van that Rufus just drove around, and Rufus was originally just kind of like this homeless 27-year-old high school sophomore who lived in his van, who for some reason his van could drive through time.
Oh my God.
And because of Back to the Future, because of the DeLorean, they didn't want it to be a vehicle.
Right.
And none of us, we were all so clueless that we didn't know anything about Doctor Who. None of us had even heard of it.
Which is funny too, because they had to change it from a refrigerator to a DeLorean when they first wrote Back to the Future, because they were worried about kids getting stuck in refrigerators, and they had to change it as well. It's kind of this crazy no time machine.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were going to have it be a refrigerator. They were worried about kids getting stuck in refrigerators, so they changed it to a DeLorean. You wrote it as a van, and then you had to change it into a phone booth.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Wait, originally, is this true?
Yeah.
Originally in Back to the Future, it was a refrigerator?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really different. That's wild, because the DeLorean just feels so... But I guess people would say the phone booth feels very essential to Bill and Ted,
Right.
So,
Totally.
the vehicle's the vehicle, and ultimately it doesn't really matter that much, I guess.
But it ended up being, so iconic. I mean, I know a little bit about Doctor Who, but I think about phone booth time travel, I'm thinking about Bill and Ted.
and you're a young guy, and this movie's coming out, and to show you, I grew up in Long Island, New York, right? And I see this, these guys, these Southern California characters, and they just explode all over the country. Everybody is doing, Bill and Ted impressions. When this movie comes out, you're a young guy. I mean, that's just got to be, a crazy feeling, especially when your dad is already, and everybody, like you said, is in the family is making these huge contributions to pop culture. I mean, what was that like for you?
It's 1989, and there's not a lot of it's pre-internet.
Yeah.
So I don't think I really had much of a sense of it, to tell you the truth. I mean, I was aware that it was doing pretty well at the box office, and I was aware that, the studio wanted to make a sequel, so therefore it had to be doing pretty good. And I was aware of stuff like that, but I didn't really have any. Honestly, it's only as years have gone by, because let's just say there's some 8-year-old, right, who really digs it in 1989.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way of knowing that. But as years have gone by, Ed and I have had interactions with some of those 8-year-olds now who have grown up and said, wow, that really meant a lot to me in 1989 or 1992 or 1997, whatever.
Sure.
I don't think either one of us really grasped it in 1989, though. Not much. I didn't.
Yeah.
For sure. Also, I had grown up around this, and my dad had some pretty serious successes that had landed, and so stuff that people had really liked and talked about, and so to the degree that I even did grasp it, and I don't think I did grasp it very much, but to the degree that I did, it wouldn't have seemed completely new to me because I'd kind of seen it happen to him a couple of times, a little bit.
What did your dad think when it happened to you?
I don't know. I remember him saying to me at one point, we didn't talk about it very much, actually, but he said to me at one point, I've never really had anything like this happen in my career. I remember him saying that to me.
That's wild.
And I was like, huh. Well, that means something, I guess.
Yeah. Did you see you and your dad? Your films mentioned side by side in Avengers Endgame?
Oh, they were? No.
Yeah, as one of the characters is talking about the rules of time travel. They're having this argument about what the rules of time travel are, and he starts saying, "Well, yeah, I learned from all these movies." And they talk about they mention Somewhere in Time, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Back to the Future. They mention all of them, but they specifically mention Somewhere in Time and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Yeah. Somewhere in Time is like such a. I mean, it's such a bizarre version of time travel.
Yeah.
Like, basically, you can just more or less talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
You just put on the clothes.
Yeah, just don't have a penny in your pocket.
And you lay on a bed, and you say, it's 1895, it's 1895, it's 1895, and bang, it's 1895. That is just the wildest take on it. I kind of love it. Because it so completely strips out any device at all.
Yeah,
there's no device
booth,
at all.
No refrigerator.
Right.
It's the Beetlejuice Bloody Mary style of time travel.
Yeah, basically, right.
Do you have a favorite kind of work of your father's?
I like The Shrinking Man a lot. I think The Shrinking Man is really a very powerful book.
Yeah.
I think it's a very deep book. I think that he's talking in a really deep and intuitive way about male fears that pertain to, women and sexuality and their role in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty great book. I think there's parts of I Am Legend that are fantastic. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't know if any of you guys read I Am Legend.
Yeah, I just reread it.
I tell people to read that book all the time.
I was actually reading it right before the lockdowns happened for the pandemic, like right before. Yeah. And the whole thing, in the book, he realizes that the germ came from a bat, and then it ended civilization. And I was freaking the fuck out. I was like, wow, this is way too real. I got to put it down.
I remember being a kid. I was probably 11 or 12. So it was a pretty serious, pretty heavy book to read. Yeah. And I got to the thing with the dog.
God. It brings the house down. It brings the house down.
Oh, my God. And I went to him afterwards, and I just had tears in my eyes. Yeah. I was like, Dad, how could you do that? How could you do that? Oh, my God, that hit me so hard. The dog licks his hand.
Dude,
and then that last sentence.
I was my friend Jesse, who had the Bill and Ted thing outside her wedding. I read I Am Legend when I lived with her, and I told her, I was like, you got to read this book. And I remember the room, I was doing the laundry room where I got to the thing where the dog licks his hand, and I was just absolutely gutted. And then yesterday, I was gutted for the first time because it was the first time I had read What Dreams May Come. And when I started reading it, I was in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery because it was one of the few places you could walk around during quarantine. And I had already talked to you on the phone. And in that book, his name is Chris, and his son's name is Richard. And he's talking about being dead and, just trying to get to his son. And I was crying in the cemetery, thinking about my dad, who passed away in 2006. And I just, what was that like for you to read?
Well, that book is extremely autobiographical. I mean, like really autobiographical. Like that's us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that's really us.
Yeah.
And he gives him. I mean, he uses my name for himself, and he and I were very, very close when I was growing up. We were very, very close. Spent a lot of time together. And so he named my character Ian, who's the youngest son. And it was weird. I remember reading it when I was like 18 or something, and because that's when it came out. And I was like, damn, wow, this is like really directly about us.
It's such a loving dedication to a family.
Yeah, at the same time, in the end, he goes and, I mean, it's a mixed bag, right? Because in the end, he goes and saves my mom from hell because, she killed herself because she can't live without him.
Sure.
And then, so they're both dead. So both the parents are dead. And the kids are just like, well, good luck, kids. It's like,
I know. And the thing is,
we don't hear anything more about them. It's just like, fuck it. Whatever. Good luck, kids.
Right, yeah. But then in the movie, they had a thing about, there was a son connection.
Yeah, they tried to solve it in the movie, but I think it's pretty weak. It's a pretty weak solve. Like, Cuba Gooding somehow turns out to be their kid, or it's pretty strained, I think. Like, my dad's version of it is just, it is what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, the kids are really important. The kids are really important. The kids are really important. You know what? The kids aren't that.
Yeah.
And there's a dog licking the hand.
There's another dog that brought me to tears, too.
Oh, yeah. The dog's hugely... Oh, yeah, that's our beloved family dog named Katie. Oh, we all love Katie. And Katie plays actually, the dogs... And then there's another dog when he goes to hell to rescue my mom. There's another one of our dogs there. And they both play hugely important. Dogs, it's a very weird family I come from, actually, very strange family, in fact. But one thing that I would say we all had in common, and in a very genuine way, we loved our dogs, man. Yeah. We loved our dogs. And I'm not sure we loved each other very much, but we loved.
Same thing happened to me about a year ago. Like, my family's pretty distant and not very emotional, but like, we had this dog, and when she died and we had to put her down, like, I have never seen my dad cry like that, or I haven't seen anybody in my family come together and like be emotional around this for anything other than when this dog died, and it was just such like a lightning rod for emotion and love in our family. So I totally understand. Like, man.
I know, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's just sort of like they can be this vehicle, who is loved by everyone. And so, the genuine love that he writes, both Katie and Ginger, who were, two of our dogs growing up, it's really moving.
Yeah. I would assume a lot of families don't have this outward expression of love. So that's why I was so fascinated with it, because, it's one of those things where you go like, I know my dad loves me, but like when you read this thing, from your dad, and he's talking about just, it was, I can't imagine being able to read these books and then just walk in the other room and be like, hey, what's up with this? It's just a wild dynamic. I mean, I can't imagine what that must have been like. Was he like really into talking about it? Like,
he would have talked about it. I mean, he and I were very, very close until I was about 25 years old.
Yeah.
And then less so, I would say. But we were, like, when he wrote it, I was like 16, 17. And we were very close. We did a lot of stuff together. We went to Dodger games and just went to the movies and went out to eat and hung out a lot, Yeah, and it was good, and he would have been perfect. He would have been totally comfortable talking about it. I vaguely remember him saying, "Here's the book. You play a meaningful role in it."
Wow!
And I was happy.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the Buddha story. Thank you for sending us copies.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Oh, sure.
I read it like in an afternoon. It's very, very funny. A great, Buddha relationship with Ananda. Just,
oh my God.
A dynamic duo.
Yeah, it's such like a Pinky in the Brain, almost like animated quality to the characters. I love it.
What brought you to write the Buddha story?
Oh, I wrote a couple of books before that. One's called The Story of God and one's called The Trouble with God, where I kind of just made fun of the Bible, where I kind of told the story of God using the book itself as chapter and verse and kind of stringing together this narrative of who God would have to be if the Bible is correct, and how insane he'd have to be, and how vindictive, and how self-hating, and et cetera. Like, who does this guy have to be in order for this to be true? And I just sort of tracked him from Genesis to Revelations, and then I thought, well, I'm going to keep following this character because he's an incredibly funny character to me. So I sort of tracked him through the Quran and the Book of Mormon because I thought, I'm just going to keep following this guy because he's ridiculous everywhere he goes. And then I was so I finished that, and I thought, well, now what? And so then I just started looking into Buddhism because they get such a pass, right? Somehow like that gets to be the one that's sort of cool, right? Yeah. Like you can be a cool person, you can be a serious person, you can be kind of an intellectual, and you can still be a Buddhist. And I just started, and I'd met a few American Buddhists, and I just thought, you're just the most pretentious, sanctimonious, assholes I've ever met. I can't stand them. And so I started reading the stuff, their source material. And I thought, well, this is every bit, they've gotten away with it here, because this is every bit as laughable as, Christianity.
Yeah. The sexism.
And it's every bit as mean-spirited.
Yeah.
It's every bit as stupid. It's totally fraudulent. And it's really ugly and like nihilistic in the end. And so I thought, I'm going to go after this one because, I don't know, I like to do that. I don't like these belief systems that claim absolute truth. Right. That really, really rubs me the wrong way. People who claim to know absolute truth. Right. Because I just don't accept it. It's like, well, that's just bullshit. That is just, on the face of it, bullshit. Right. Nobody knows that. Nobody has access to that. Even if for some crazy reason you were the one who did know the absolute truth, you wouldn't know you knew it. You'd have no way of knowing you knew it. Right. You'd still have to wonder. And so this bullying thing of like, this is how reality is, and here's how you should live, and here's how you should think, and the dishonesty of it, which revolves around, this has nothing to do with ego. In fact, strip away ego, but it's actually completely built on this guy's ego, as completely, totally about his ego. So I thought, well, I'm just going to mock it because I don't like it. It bugs me. It irritates me. And I don't know whether I can do anything to make anybody look at it differently. Right. But it was fun to write, and I try to find things that are engaging for me to write. Yeah. And, hopefully it's funny.
Yeah, it is very
funny. Very, the way you write it definitely highlights the absurdity of so many of the claims, where he says, this is not about ego, but once again, I am perfect, and you must refer to me as the perfect one and the most clean. But once again, I want to remind you, abolish all ego. Yeah. And he kind of speaks in almost these Trumpisms. Yeah. Which are just so perfect for the moment and so funny that like.
Yeah, I got a lot of notes of Trump and a lot of just a spoiled, ignorant brat kind of vibes from the character that.
Oh yeah. Oh, he totally is. Yeah, he's this idea. I mean, it's like it's supposedly about no ego, right? Supposedly about move on from ego, and then but his nickname, but the name he gives himself is Perfect One. Perfect One. This has nothing to do with ego, but call me Perfect One. It's like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
This is like ludicrous. And he's such a dick, you know? And again, I'm using their book.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm quoting it chapter and verse. I'm not making this shit up.
Yeah, there are
I'm using
citations
all
throughout
of
the book.
their books.
Yeah.
Like, this is your guy.
Yeah.
I'm just mirroring back
Yeah.
what you have told. These are all, I didn't make up any of these stories.
Yeah.
These are their stories. And they think that these stories make their guy look great. But they don't make him look great. He's a complete dick. He's a total dick to his kid.
Yeah.
He's a total dick to his wife.
Yeah.
He's a total dick to his little, his adoring sidekick, Ananda. He's a total dick to women. He couldn't be more of a braggart. He couldn't be more kind of self-centered and and at the end of the day, this belief system, this so-called beautiful belief system is really like utterly nihilistic.
Yeah.
It's like, what life is pain. Life is pain. Life is suffering. And the best thing you can possibly do is just die.
Yeah.
Is just die and stay dead, because if you come back, it's just shitty, right? No matter what I find it, no matter what you come back as, he says, it's shitty.
Yeah.
You come back as a god, oh, no, that's shitty. You come back as an animal, oh, that's shitty. You come back as a human being, no, that's shitty. They're all shitty. Everything's shitty. The only thing that you should aspire to is to just be dead.
Yeah.
Dead. That's it. It's
Non-existence.
and
totally.
people think this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And profound.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to take a few whacks at it,
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a payoff to the way you write it too, when it ends in just a flood of diarrhea at the end.
Yeah,
there is a lot of shit and piss and puke.
Yeah.
Right, and that's got to be. It's got to be true, right? Because why would they make that up?
Yeah.
He shit himself out. That's how he died. He shit himself out.
Yeah.
But
It's incredible.
You cite one of the books where right after you write something to the effect of, and never shit standing up for obvious reasons, and then you cite it. So they clearly have a lot of thought about this stuff.
Yeah, like one of the things, just so much about being a walking bag of shit and piss. Or, they really were obsessed with
all that stuff.
the disgusting nature of being a person.
These religious people, they hate the body so much.
Yeah.
The body's so much the enemy of human life. And of course, I look at that and it's like, well, I like the body.
Yeah.
I like sex. I like food. I like exercise. I like these things. I like being alive in my body. What are you idiots talking about?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
It's this fantasy of what they don't have instead of enjoying what they do, and it's bizarre.
Yeah. It is.
I mean, it's a death
they
cult
tell
like a
other
lot of
people
the other
that's
ones.
how you should be.
Yeah. So you've got this. I mean, this is quite a theme running through your entire body of work. I mean, this is Rapturepalooza, and your books and
Bogus Journey.
Bogus Journey has Heaven and Hell. You spent quite a bit of your career talking about religion.
I have. It's very, very true. I am very drawn to it. And as a comedy writer, it's like there is no better found comedy on earth than these religious. No, none. I mean, absolutely none. And sometimes you have to look a little bit harder, like the Quran. You have to kind of like study it a little bit before you kind of get the joke of it, and then you get it, and you're like, oh, all right, got it.
Yeah.
The Book of Mormon is just overtly laughable, and it's just overtly absurd.
Yeah.
But I have. I really, okay. My dad, look, I was really close with my dad. I was for a really long time, and I really loved my dad, and he was a good man in many, many ways. But my dad claimed to know absolute truth. My dad, when he was old, he did this CD called Reality, and I don't even know if you can find it online. Maybe you can. If you could, it's rare and probably costs $200.
Right.
But it's called Reality, and it's my dad basically for like 2 hours straight talking about absolute reality. Like he knows what absolute reality is.
Wow. Yeah.
And as I got older, I mean, it's the reason we drifted apart.
Yeah.
I really, really didn't like that.
Yeah.
I really bumped against that. And he felt me bumping against that, and we started to argue.
Yeah.
And we started to get into it. And in time, I thought, I'm going to make fun of it because I like making fun of things, and it deserves it.
Yeah, and there's an urgency to describe exact reasons things are happening in your dad's writing that I see. He's when he's doing it in the books I Am Legend, he's saying this is how the virus was, and when he's doing it in What Dreams May Come, he's saying this is exactly how hell is. He clearly needs to paint a full picture in his mind, I notice, and maybe that's where.
If you look at the end of What Dreams May Come, he's got this list of like 200 books or something that he'd studied, and I'd say, I don't believe any of what you believe, Dad. I don't believe in life. I don't believe any of this.
Yeah.
I really don't, and I don't at all. I think it's all made up. I think he was just scared, and he was like, "Well, look at my list of 200 books." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but." I mean, anybody could find 200 books to prove anything. You know what I mean? Did you read any books that argue against it? You just found but yes, he had done a tremendous amount of research to prove to himself that this was true, because he was terrified of dying. Terrified of death. Terrified. He was so scared of dying.
Yeah.
And he just had to believe that he would continue to exist on the other side.
Yeah.
So he made it very, very real for himself. And when I challenged him, our relationship changed.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. That's intense. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I think it's so interesting, because there's this, on one side, the need to know and have this strict dogma with these religions, and then, then there's these kind of like two accidental bodhisattvas in Bill and Ted who just are they come to us enlightened. They're extremely positive and full of light, and they just have, be excellent to each other as their motto. And, they didn't even want to be any sort of leaders. They just find out from the future that they are. They just kind of get thrown into it, which is almost like even more enlightened. I didn't seek out enlightenment. It just kind of came to us. And I think that's kind of like one of these things that is overlooked in the franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, let me be very upfront. The first time I saw Boga's Journey, I took mushrooms for the first time, so it really imprinted itself on me. But I think that
I heard you do basically tell the entire story of Boga's Journey.
Oh, you did?
Basically in one breath, almost. It sounded like it was.
Was it pretty good?
It was very impressive. It was.
Thank you so much.
It was remarkable.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is this kind of, the I don't want to say the gospel, but there is a kind of a sweetness to them. They are good. And you can't say that about a lot of I can't say that about Cheech and Chong. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Even a lot of obviously there's been the other great comedy duos from Laurel and Hardy, etc. But there is a real sweet purity to Bill and Ted, and
even the nature of their speech is kind of poetic.
Yeah, there's just a real lack of cynicism there. That's so charming, I guess. Right. It stands out from like a Wayne and Garth or anything. Like they're always kind of really they're not making fun of anything. No. Like they're just kind of being themselves.
The only thing I can think of that they ever do that is somewhat malicious is they Melvin death, and even then they have a sweet spot for death. It's which is very poetic as well. They can even see, as opposed to being completely afraid of death and dying, these guys they're
like, this is what he does.
Yeah, he's death. Oh, come on, death. You're not so like. Come on, let's go. I mean, it's just so. Maybe I took too much mushrooms watching it, but maybe I'm reading into it too much. But I really think there's something sweet about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure.
I don't know, man.
Do you?
But I do know that like there have been times over the years where we've had moments where they're gonna lie or cheat or try and trick somebody. And we always bump up against those. And Keanu in particular is very sensitive to those. And he'll really notice those always and say, Bill and Ted wouldn't do that.
That's so dope.
And he's right. Yeah. And so we always change it. They don't lie.
Yeah.
Do you have?
They don't. They just.
Do you have any? Do you have any cool Keanu memories through the years?
He was just kind of a fascinating young guy. When we first met him in '87, he was probably, I think he was in his early 20s, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he was like, at the time I was like, man, he's like a being from another planet, I just never met anybody like him. He had a completely different vibe, a completely different energy. He was very cool. He was very cool. He is very cool, actually.
Yeah.
He is. Fact. You can't pretend that. You can't fake that. Well, the way people perceive him, there's a lot of truth to it.
Wow.
He's a very, very unusual and serious guy who's in fact really funny. Strangely,
yeah,
but he is. He's really quite funny. On the set, he would just walk around like in a skirt on the first movie, and I hadn't met anybody who did that before. This was like 1987, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. He's a strange cat, and
that's weird.
He had really interesting. He would listen to The Clash. He liked The Clash.
Cool.
And I remember him at one point. I had not seen The Evil Dead Part 2 at that time. And I remember Keanu just going on this, like, you've got to see The Evil Dead Part 2, and acting out one of the scenes where the trees are, like, attacking them, and just doing this wild, kind of performance of it. And it was funny.
Wow.
And
that's so cool. That's really great.
God.
Man, he's a really fascinating, character. That's just like he's a borderline mythic now in pop culture. I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah, and I get it because
it's real.
He's kind of the real deal. He's actually a really cool dude, and his performance as Ted, circa 2020. It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. And he goes for some darker things, and he goes for some deeper things. Alex does too, but Keanu, I would say, slightly more. Ted is still Ted, but there's a lot of pain in Ted, Ted has, it's not easy being Ted. And you can feel that. And there's a kind of a lurking sort of he struggles with being Ted. And it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah. There's something kind of behind those eyes you can see in the character that is, just like, why am I always getting sent to military school? They're like, why does this guy, give me such a hard time? Can you reveal any, tasty tidbit exclusives for the program about where Bill and Ted might venture into in this round coming up and Face the Music?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the trailer. The trailer kind of tells you certain things, that it hasn't worked out. Basically,
right.
That song that they were supposed to write that was going to save the world, they haven't come up with it, and then they've been trying. They've really been trying, but they haven't come up with it, and that's hard, because that's a pretty heavy load to carry. Like in high school, you're told you're going to save the world,
right?
And now you're 50,
right?
And you haven't,
and
not even close, in fact. And so that weighs on them, and they've got financial problems, and they've got problems with their marriages, and they're tired. They're kind of worn out. And then somebody comes from the future and is like, okay, you've got to do this now. Now. Like, you've got an hour and a half. do like right now, where the entire universe is basically going to end. So they have to come up with it like instantly, and then their big idea, kind of, I guess. And again, I mean, this has been in the trailer, so I don't think I'm revealing anything. Their big insight is like, well, why don't we just go into our own future and steal it from our older selves? Because we know we're going to write it at some point. Yeah. So they just keep going into different versions of the future to basically find the song and steal it from themselves. But it doesn't go the way it doesn't go the way they expect.
Hijinks ensue.
That's a pretty good tease.
I love it.
That's a pretty good tease. Would you do another one, or is this going to be it for Bill and Ted?
I think this is it. I mean, I wouldn't personally, because three's kind of the magic number. It's beginning, middle, and end. And,
right.
I think this is. I think at the end of this movie, their journey is complete emotionally. I think it's complete, and I wouldn't have a clue what to do now. Right. If it works and there's an interest, will other people want to push forward and try to explore that? Maybe. Would Alex and Keanu want to participate? I don't have any idea. Actually, I have no idea.
Yeah. Do you have...
Maybe they'd want to do it with their kids, because their daughters are important characters. So, maybe they'd want to do it with their daughters. I don't know. Maybe.
Right. Do you have like a favorite like book and or film of your own?
Do I have a favorite?
A
book
personal favorite
of my own, or of someone else?
Just of your own writing. Is there something that is, or is it just whatever you're working on at the time, basically?
Well, I'm proud of the Bill and Ted movies. I mean, I'm proud of all three of them in different ways. So probably that. I made, the one movie that I ever got to direct, because nobody really wanted to give me any money to direct, which I sort of understand. I wasn't really that good at it. But the one time that I ever got to do it, I made this little tiny movie called Evil Alien Conquerors with Chris Parnell and Diedrich Bader playing these two, aliens, idiot aliens who are supposed to take over Earth in 48 hours, but they have no special abilities and they have no weapons and they've got nothing. They just basically have nothing. So they just sort of stomp around threatening people and failing again and again and again. And, that was super fun to make. And so I have a soft spot in my heart for that one because, when you write and direct a movie, then that's the realization of the little vision. So, I like that one.
Sweet. And you've got the Buddha story is coming out in August.
Yes.
And do you have anything else? Do you know what else is next for you? Do you have anything in the hopper?
I don't really know. I'm kind of just mulling it over. I'm asking myself that very question.
Yeah.
What next?
Right. Yeah.
And I've got a few things that I'm kind of tinkering with, but I don't know if they're anything, to tell you the truth. And so I don't really know. We'll see. My son and I my son's a visual artist, and he and I made this little thing just for fun, which we called God's Art Museum, which you could watch if you wanted to. Yeah. If you go to YouTube, God's Art Museum, Chris Matheson. Right. It's basically God walking through his gigantic art museum and looking at all the paintings. Like, by Michelangelo and Leonardo and El Greco. I mean, all the greatest artists who've ever lived, telling his story visually and just getting angrier and angrier because all of these paintings make him look stupid. They always make him look stupid no matter what. Yeah. So that's like a half hour long, and that's kind of a little thing we just did recently.
That's really cool.
We'll send people there.
Did you do you think you picked up, like, as you kind of like, developed your voice, which obviously was this much more comedic voice than like your dad's, but you still were kind of dealing in fantastic things, I mean, were you like how much of like all of the science fiction or fantasy stuff was just prevalent growing up, I guess, and how did you develop that?
I think I was just steeped in it, I just grew up in that, and so it just was my reality. And I remember, many times having the conversation with my dad, where he would say, change one thing. It can be a big thing. Make one fantastic leap, and then tell the story completely, truthfully, and naturalistically to the best of your abilities. And I thought that was a really good idea. And in fact, that is kind of his big idea. That is kind of what he did. It's kind of why part of why he's famous, because up till him, a lot of science fiction and fantasy, I think, I'm not an expert on it, but I think it was kind of, there was a lot of gothic horror, and there was a lot of overblown stuff. And my dad wrote in this very stripped down, austere style.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, and I certainly noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was. It kind of brought in this realism to sci-fi and fantasies. I mean, at least in I Am Legend, it's like, well, I had to go get gas today. It's a very much of the day-to-day what ifs that kind of make a unrealistic situation that much more believable.
Would you say that was kind of the best advice you'd heard as far as writing advice went?
That was very good. That was really, really good advice. Beyond that, I mean, I think one of the best pieces of advice he ever gave me was, when you finish something, move on. Stop to the best of your ability. Just move on to the next thing. Yeah. Try not to think about, you're gonna, of course you're gonna, but always try to be moving forward into the next thing so that your mind is into the next thing. So you don't get too hung up on worrying about what people are going to think about the one you just finished. Right. So that in a way, it's already in the past. In a way, it's like you're already past it. Emotionally, somehow. You're not. It doesn't really work exactly, but it's kind of a good idea. Just always keep moving forward. My dad wrote every day. Man, he was a machine. He would go to his little office, which was on our property. It was like a converted, stall, a horse stall. And he would write for 6-8 hours every single day of, I don't know if he took Sunday off, maybe he did, but not necessarily.
Wow. And I mean, what would be the kind of approach you take to writing? And,
any tips?
Any tips for, me and Aaron are writing a story. You have any tips for writers that you give?
Do I have any advice?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. I think you just kind of, I would say you just kind of have to do it. And I would say, I would have said at one point, like, well, just write every day. Just carve out time every day and write. Because that's what I would have. That's kind of what I've done. It's what I saw my dad do. But I've come to understand over the years that there's, like Shane Black, for instance, he would do no writing for like a long stretch of time, years and years, and he'd say, I've got to wait for the coffee to brew, I've got to wait for the tea to get strong enough, and then it would be strong enough and he'd write it really fast. So I don't know if it's like different writers have different rhythms.
Right.
Tell the truth. I mean, that's usually the best advice, I think, like you can't, people try to be clever and they try to think of clever ideas and they try to be, and you've got to be so clever for that to work. You've got to be more clever than anybody else almost, because a lot of people are trying to do that. But if you just really tell the truth and get out of the way and really tell it, the stuff that hurts, the stuff that you really feel, the genuine stuff, the stuff that you're scared of, the stuff you're mad at, the stuff that hurts, the stuff you're legitimately excited by and turned on by, and the stuff that makes you laugh, and I gotta think that's anybody's best shot.
Right.
Yeah.
The stuff you can't fake.
Is there did you when you say you were steeped in all of the fantasy stuff, like, I mean, was like Rod Serling around the house and stuff when you were growing up? Was he like babysitting?
Well, he wasn't babysitting, but he definitely would come over for dinner sometimes. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, what did
him and Chuck Beaumont and probably Ray Bradbury on occasion, not very often, but on occasion. Yeah, it was like that. I mean, my dad knew all those people and worked for them and with them.
Did you get any impression of the kind of guy Serling was? He seems like the most well-adjusted war veteran of all time somehow. Like he seems like he's like, well, that was then, and now
thanks to Chesterfield cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I wish I had something. I don't have one memory of Rod Serling. Not a one. I know he was there. I know they went to his house. Him and his wife's house. I don't have one. I was pretty young, I mean, this would have been when I was 4 and 5 years old. So I don't remember very much. I don't remember it. I wish I did.
There's something I wanted to ask you. I think Tarantino said one time where he says he thought, and he was talking about when he wrote True Romance and how he wasn't present on set, and he said he thought that the writer should be there every day on set or not at all. What was your approach when you and Ed were doing the movies, or Imagine That, or Rapture? Are you around when those movies are happening?
Well, it's different for each one, and I would say with regard to the Bill and Ted movies, the first one, we were really young and neither one of us was married, neither one of us had kids, so we were pretty much there the whole time. And by the way, this is all just contingent on the director, because if the director doesn't want you there, then you're not really going to be there, It's all contingent upon that relationship with the director. But the directors of the 3 Bill and Ted movies were all, pretty cool in different ways. The second one, Bogus Journey, like by that time I was married and my wife and I had a newborn child, our son. So I wasn't there hardly at all. I remember going twice, 3 times. I mean, almost not at all. And then this third one, I was probably there about 2.5. Ed was there pretty much the whole time. It filmed down in New Orleans, and he was pretty much there the whole time. And I think that I was probably there 2.5 weeks, which felt about right to me. I didn't want to be there every day, but I definitely wanted to be there some of the time. So, that seems like it. That sounds very Tarantino-esque.
Yeah,
right.
Because it's so stark. It's so black. It's so black and white. Rapturepalooza, they didn't want me there. Like, they basically just improvised that whole movie. Mm-hmm. They just kind of like, you know what? We're just gonna make shit up, and they did. That one's kind of a bummer for me because a lot of what I wrote didn't end up on the screen. They just improvised.
Yeah.
So they didn't want me there because they don't want the writer there if they're just going to improvise. Right. And imagine that. Oh man, I was there maybe a day or two. Hardly at all.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a bummer. Just I mean, has there been much of that? Like things you've seen, just kind of like. Where you've been like, oh, this is totally just not my thing at all? Like, has that happened very much?
Where it just...
The final product?
The final product is just totally not yours?
Yeah. I mean, it is a director's medium.
Right.
Ultimately. We are basically creating a map, and they are the ones who guide the boat voyage, if you want. And so the director just matters so much. Yeah. And you've kind of written a story, and they're going to tell the story.
Sure.
And yeah, I would say I haven't been very happy, mostly. The Bill and Ted movies, in varying degrees, I have been pretty happy with. Other than that, I don't really like anything that I've ever had filmed. And Rapturepalooza was really a disappointment because I thought it was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it. To me, they just kind of like did bro-y humor. It was just, fuck you, right. Just like it, just really, really crude, stupid humor, I thought. I didn't like it.
Yeah, there was one of the craziest stories I ever heard about a screenwriter just being like, "What the hell?" Was this guy wrote this screenplay about the Cuban Revolution, and he sold it, and then he started getting royalty checks, and he's like, "Oh, they must have made my movie." And it was Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. They had turned it into. Just
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that qualifies as just money falling out of the sky in a way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just cash the check.
Yeah.
What would you say is the thing you are into most about the upcoming Bill and Ted movie, Face the Music? What's your favorite kind of angle of it?
Well, they're grown up,
Yeah.
you know, and there's real. Our starting point for this one was like Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life.
Great.
It was there was pain, and it goes to some pretty deep places, and as I said, the guys play that really, really well, and the director, Dean Pariseau, directs that really well. Simultaneously, it's still a Bill and Ted movie. I mean, it's pretty fun and ultimately pretty upbeat. It's not gloomy at all, but I think the jokes are coming from a pretty dark place at times. And I'm pleased with that. I think it's, for lack of a better word, I think it's romantic.
Wow.
And I'm happy about that.
That's
I think
great.
it's a romantic movie. Yeah, I think it is, because a lot of comedies aren't, and a lot of comedies that I love aren't. You know, like that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, but these guys actually really love their wives, and they really love their kids, and that's actually genuinely part of the movie. And I'm happy about that, because, you know, as much as I love the Marx Brothers, as much as I love, you know, Ricky Bobby or Ron Burgundy, that doesn't happen. You know, they don't go to those places.
Right.
And I wanted us to go to those places because I thought that was an important part of 30 years had passed.
Yeah.
And they're not 17-year-old boys in 50-year-old men's bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The characters have grown.
Yeah, I think so. Because Ed and I have, you know, we've grown up. We were like, when we made them up, we were in our early 20s.
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're both 60, you know?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, they were going to be different, and they are.
That's
playing to the truth, right? That's being truthful. That's great.
That's really, really cool. I think we got some great stuff here, man. I really loved this interview. I can't thank you enough for doing the show. I like I said, I would do this. I'd do this every week.
Anytime you want. We'll carve out an hour.
Yeah, we'll schedule a weekly call.
Chris, station to you.
Station to you.
And really can't wait for the movie. Love the book. Can't wait to see what you do next. And thank you so much for doing the interview.
It was fun talking to you guys. Thanks.
All right, take care, Chris.
You too. Bye-bye, guys.
Hey, that was something.
How about that shit?
Whoo, boy, we got some scoopy, delicious scoopy.
We got some tasty little scoops. He was incredibly cool.
Yes.
I mean,
well, he's from LA.
Shut up.
Well, listen, people,
okay.
Listen, man. I just get him. Okay.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right, he's talking about how Keanu was like really different.
Really
it's like,
is,
well, he's from Hawaii.
Yeah.
Very
I was like,
chill.
well, I don't know if you've met Andros Jones. He's it's my kind of Keanu. You know what I mean? Shout out to Andros. We love you, buddy. just a really, really interesting time. I didn't know how open he'd be to talking about his dad and stuff.
And he was super open about it.
Incredibly open. Just a fascinating dynamic between the two of them opens up. And, I think that was an incredible eye-opening thing to hear him talk about their, splitting apart. And I empathize with the dad fearing death and just wanting these explicit answers to be fact.
And especially of his generation and a guy who served in the military in this, time where everything seems so cut and dry. They are bad, we are good, and here's how you beat them, right? And later generations, like Chris's generations, kind of was, it's a little more black and white.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it. Let's explore it.
Yeah.
But it was very, very revealing and open about his relationship with his dad and fuck man, got to talk about Bill and Ted. I never thought I'd be able to fucking talk about Bill and Ted to the guy that wrote it. Hi.
Yeah, and it coming from an improv place and him saying that thing of like you just fucking hang out with people that make you laugh and that's where it comes from. It was like. Yeah, fuck, duh.
And just being the characters, we wrote it by just like I was Ted, he was Bill, and just.
Yeah,
it's really cool stuff, man.
Yeah, the stuff about it having heart at the end was definitely what I'm excited most about for the upcoming movie, and I think it's one of the enduring things from his father's work that comes through him too, is that there's just a lot of heart there.
Yeah,
despite their differences, both of them have this really. Authentic, going for your heart and showing you theirs kind of thing, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Two totally different voices, but there's still like those couple of things that go through, and it's a little bit of fantasy and a whole lot of heart.
Yep.
I don't know. I was just.
That was. It couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see the movie.
Yeah.
Check out the Buddha. The Buddha story is funny.
Yes,
it does. And I'm going to go back and read some of his other stuff.
It's also just like a great primer for Buddhism because I didn't know anything about it.
Right. I didn't.
But then once you see the citations and you go like, oh, this is actually the story.
He cites anything and everything in there is meticulously annotated or rather cited.
It's cited. Yeah.
He just puts his flavor on it, and
it's kind of a layperson's.
But
it's in lay language.
It's a literal, kind of a literal interpretation.
Yeah. So I would like to go back and read some of the other stuff on the Judeo-Christian God and Allah, as well, because it must be equally as hilarious.
Yeah.
I hope there's as much shit and piss in it as there is in the Buddha story.
There's
so much shit.
Yeah, that's really.
Everybody is a vessel.
If he only knew. If he only knew how much we love shit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't want to get into that.
It's good.
But he said he liked the body, so we're right there with him.
Yeah.
Bodily fluids or
gender fluids.
Well, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever takes it.
Really great to tell him about Endgame.
Oh my god,
didn't know about that.
So cool.
Yeah, and then you blew his mind with the fridge thing.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah.
He's like, an upright booth. That was their original.
We wrote.
Damn it, we could have had a van. You see, like he's a 27-year-old
sophomore. 27-year-old.
And then when you hear the name Rufus, you go like, oh yeah, that's Rufus.
Yeah.
Right?
Rufus is the name of a car that looks like a dog.
It's wild, man. Like. Oh God, he's just like he's really drugged up. He's just like on tons of drugs, and for some reason his van travels through time.
For some reason, still played by George Carlin.
Yeah,
so genius.
Really great.
Yeah, I was blown away by that. I guess I mean maybe I should tell everybody what started happening was Aaron had a birthday. I had no money, so I was like, what can I do? And I was like, what if I get the guy that did Bill and Ted? I just harangue him until he does the show. So then I called his manager, and I was getting ready to call his manager every day. And I was like, I'm just going to get this. I'm going to get this. And I called the second day, and then he immediately called me back. And I was like, oh, God.
Jesus.
And I said to him, I was like, oh yeah, we just wanted to talk, we do a show about weirdos, but we don't want to talk to you about that. We just, Aaron, who just had a birthday, really likes Bill and Ted, and we want to talk about like your dad, because I was so shocked by him calling me, and then he's like, yeah, I'll do it, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I'll just text you here at this number, and he's like, yeah, that's fine, and I was like, gotta tell you, man, I can't really believe I'm talking to you right now. And he goes, well, here I am. And then the trailer comes out. COVID is now erupted. And I leave him a voicemail like, hey, man, we still want to do it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I hope your family's safe and all that. And I get a text. He goes, hey, John, have we talked before? And I was like, damn it. And I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, God.
And I go, yeah, I called your manager. Then you called me, Profiles in Eccentricity podcast. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of busy now. Don't really have time for that. But, my best to you. And I was like, damn it. And then it's like June 16th or whatever, me from out of nowhere. Same thread. Happy Father's Day.
What a creep.
Such a psycho. And then like, what was it? A couple of days ago,
Yeah.
he just texted me going, I have time for this now.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Happy Father's Day.
is this because of the terrifying Happy Father's Day from out of nowhere?
Yes.
Wow, this guy really cares. About what? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's... I don't know. I was really touched by the thing, about him being named, his father's thing and the what dreams may come thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's now working on stuff with his son.
Yep.
So maybe the Father's Day thing worked out.
Well, you kept you alive.
I think it did.
I don't know. But the whole thing started with you, Aaron. As it begins and ends always.
I am the Alpha and the Omega.
You're the be-all, end-all, Kendall.
I'm sorry.
Whoops.
I didn't choose this life. It's a life that chose me.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice if we could have him here in the studio, but, circumstances considering.
Right. Next time.
Yeah.
Once there's a vaccine and a time-traveling refrigerator, van or something.
Yeah. So, guys, check out The Buddha Story and check out Bill and Ted Face the Music. Coming out.
Check out the Patreon.
Check out the Patreon. Check out the Patreon. $5 a month to get an extra show a week.
A lot of bangers on there right now.
Yeah. We had some fun last time, man.
Yeah.
I think we'll get out of here.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. We sure did.
Yeah, be excellent to each other. I love you. My name is John Fahey.
My name is Aaron Pita.
Matt Brousseau.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Starburns Audio.